Hello, and welcome to Awaken Your Human Design. My name is Moni, and this is Danny, and we have a fun show today for you. We're going to be talking about the gates of the identity center in human design.
To understand humanity is to understand the movement inside this G center.
I like to think of the identity center as like the compass, and then I found a little compass with a heart in it because it's love and direction.
That's really sweet, actually.
Thank you to everyone who's watching. Thank you for liking and subscribing and being part of this with us. It's a lot of fun, and we love having you here. So let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
The identity center, also known as the G center, this is our love and direction. This is our compass and how we move through the world. Gate 15, this modesty, this gate of extremes, part of collective logical circuitry, and it links up with gate 5, which is the sacral gate, which is consistency.
This modesty, it's so funny, these names, okay? Modesty is what is the 5,000-year-old name from the I Ching. Extremes is the name from today. And it's the capacity to take the extremeness of humanity. It's our genetic capacity to accept extreme stuff and ultimately make it modest, if it's to be held at all.
If it's correct.
If it's correct. And so 15 is part of the vessel of love. There's only 2 incarnation crosses in this center, and they're all in this center. And this is the love of humanity. It's collective. So we share our love of humanity. That's why, sometimes you see bad people and they say, how do you sleep at night and stuff. A lot of that, how do you sleep at night, is locked up in the center, especially in the gates of the vessel of love. So it's got to be shared. It's love of all things inside of humanity. And you got to keep in mind, it's also the disdain for. So sometimes you're pissed at all of humanity. So this is our back and forth, or angry, or something isn't quite right. Anyways, gate 15 is so cool because what else does it do? It makes darn sure that the person with it is basically calm and cool in most situations that are relatively extreme. Don't talk to that person. It's like, why? They're just a little different. Don't do, and it's always as it relates to the other. It's always as it relates to the other. So the gate 15 is able to always sit there and say, as part of the vessel of love, it's like, what's wrong with this guy? What's wrong? Let's not be so hard on it. This is our human capacity to not be so hard on things that seem extreme at first, because everyone is quite extreme if you get down to it. In fact, there's a little freak in everyone.
Yeah, and it links up with gate 5, which is the sacral gate, which is consistency. So there's this relationship between the extremes and the consistency. There's like the pattern, like the set metronome pattern, and then there's like the earthquake that happens that is going to happen, and then the metronome needs to like re-find its place. So this relationship between the pattern and the pattern break. And what I've really noticed, I have my design Earth in gate 15, and I've really started to recognize it as, that's why I chose the graphic of this guy like balancing on a ball, because I'll go from one extreme to the other extreme, and then I find my middle ground and I find my balancing point. And I've really started to understand 15 as that balancing point where it can understand this extreme, it can understand this extreme. Sometimes you don't want to be on either extreme. You could recognize it, you can understand it. Sometimes you could work it in. Sometimes you experience it and then go, that's not for me. But it's like finding your own personal balancing point between the extremes.
And you totally just described why this gate and gate 5 make up the channel of rhythm, why this channel of rhythm is in all living things down to the cellular level. Because if you're a single cell, you've got this whole channel in your, in your makeup. And that's what it's always doing. The cell itself, its mandate for life, sets patterns. But the rest of the world is extreme. It's cold, it's hot. An animal just pooped on me, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, it's raining, whatever it is.
Crazy stuff that happens, an earthquake,
everything,
the tornado, the flood.
And so the cell must love this, is the thing, because it loves itself. And it's everything about gate 15 is the love of yourself amongst the extremes and amongst the slow movement of it into a pattern that is logical, part of the logical circuitry, right? The understanding part of the collective. And so this inherently understands there are many different types of many different ways, many different every last thing, and some of them will fit into a pattern this invents the phrase, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, for instance, right? Stuff like that. Actually, all the vessel gates could say that, but this one says it in this way about as it relates to the extremes of things. So I just think that's amazing. It's a double wide too. If you have this gate in your body graph, it's a double wide aura. This gate becomes a double wide aura. If it's in an open center, it's a double wide aura waiting to happen. And if it's in a defined center, it's a double wide aura happening.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
Also, the 3 gates that we're going to start off with here, the 15, the 2, and the 46, these are also those tantric gates. So we started talking about that last week with the sacral side of it. So these 3 gates are going to be receiving that energy from the sacral. So we'll get to that at the end when we do the 3 of them, but maybe just keep that in mind as we continue on.
Yeah, Tantra is a very special word, and it has everything to do with rhythm. It's interesting we start here at this beginning of the channel of rhythm. If you've got this in your body graph, you already know that you put up with more than most of your friends. Is that
Yeah, you can
true,
just,
Moni? Do you? I do.
yeah, there's definitely like a wider net of what I can deal with and like
Right.
who I can deal with and the oddballs that I've interacted with in my life for good and for bad, you know?
The
Because there is
cat with
that,
the purple hair and a nose ring and a bunch of stuff and leathers that
I
rolls
mean, that
up
was
on a
me.
whatever. Yeah, I suppose I should pick something else. I'm showing my age, but that cat for the gate 15 individuals in the crowd gets a look. That's it. They're like, oh, there's that now.
Hmm.
Whereas the judgmentation may show up in others more quickly, in that way. So 15 is not about being judgmental. It's just not.
We have Jonathan who says I've got the personality Mercury in gate 5.6. So they'll be on the receiving end of that. You might attract the extremes into your life if you have the 5 without the 15.
Yeah, no, you definitely will attract them. That's called an electromagnetic, and that's one of the ways that we hook up all the time. If you've got gate 5, number 6, that yielding that becomes that's the name of the line is yielding. This becomes something for you that is automatically going to look out not just at gate 15, but across at all the gates in the circuitry and decide what the right yielding is for your pattern. So you'll notice in your life, especially if it's in a defined sacral, the way you yield into things and or allow is really, really particular. Even though you may be the most yielding person, it's still wicked particular to you. And so you'll find out which ones are right for you by following your strategy and authority.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Danny. Thank you, Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
Gate 2 is the receptive, and it's the gate of the direction of the self. Gate 2 is part of individual knowing circuitry, and it hooks up with sacral gate 1.
Receptivity as a primal force. It's a primal base through which any response is determined, the root of all action. So what this is saying is a gate that points at the sacral as it receives the sacral responses, because that's all it gets. Gate 2 does look at that. Nothing else touches gate 2 but gate 14 from the sacral, right? Ergo, all it will ever receive as it relates to its full life force from 14 to 2. A channel is called a life force, by the way. And so all it will ever receive is the pulse of the sacral. That is simply a response. Gate 2 is conditioned by that. And its freedom is its recognition that its receptivity is the primal root of all action. It becomes the primal root. I'm just sitting here. I am now moving a direction. Gate 2 is this thing that literally in our G center becomes almost like the steering wheel in a way. It's the steering wheel it's the go after the gas of 14 comes along that makes the vehicle move, take a direction. When you get to the top of the G center, we'll talk about it later. These are the directions it does take. But 2 is the moving force that says, I'm going to take the power of the vessel, and now with my sharing of its tantra and coming off of the sacral, we're going to generate a direction. And 2 has this innate knowing. It's a genetic construct inside of us, just like your hair follicles know they're going to come out the color they were a minute ago. It's the same thing here. It's a knowing that literally I'm going to move in a direction that somehow or other empowers the sharing of an aesthetic beauty, something something that's better than it was before, or at least as good. And it's really okay. Something that's really good. And it only gets more beautiful. Gate 2 looks towards beauty. And because it looks towards that, it's always in a hurry to get to it. If I'm on a desert and I see the oasis and I'm relatively convinced it's not a mirage, I'm in a hurry to get to it, right? That's just one of the things we do. The lines that start this out start with Gate 2's first line, when we get to it, is intuition, and the second one is genius. This is the intuitive genius. That's what Gate 2 gives us, intuitive genius, without our knowing, to actually move that direction towards more communion inside of our species, to move to not getting along, bad direction, getting along, good direction, ugly and crappy and run down, bad direction, getting prettier, lumber showed up and there's guys with hammers, be getting better. That's Gate 2's jam.
That's cool that we're programmed to be driven towards beauty,
We're
to aim
programmed for
towards
it.
beauty. Like that's just in our programming, that we're wired that way. Is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, it takes its cue from gate 14 below. That's giving it a pulse, and gate 14's the foundation of gate 14 is money isn't everything. So this is really well aligned. Our genetic chemistry is pretty intense this way.
That's really
So
beautiful.
14 is like, I'll put on the gas pedal. Here comes the generative juice. You know, you've got it. It showed up as a response. And it's not for any particular thing because money isn't everything. It's towards beauty. What do you got to? What do you got, Gate 2? We're moving, right? I mean, 14 doesn't even know it's moving. That's why people who have 14 do too much work, you know. But 2 knows it's moving and it says, thank you very much. We are, in fact, moving once again.
I just had like analogy idea about like gate 2 and then gate 1, where it's like gate 2 is this receptive. And if we go back to this idea of electromagnetism,
Yep.
let's run with that one.
Magnetic, yeah.
Yeah.
Could be either.
Yeah, so it's like if you think of a battery, it's like you have the plus side and you have the minus side, and the plus side is pushing out the electricity, and the minus side is magnetizing and receiving the electricity. And if you put a battery in the correct way, you're going to have an electronic that works. If you put it in backwards, it doesn't work. And so just kind of, I'm envisioning gate 2 as that minus side magnetic
Battery. Yeah.
receiving the electricity, and then gate 1 is that like creative electric spark that's then going to continue up the throat
Towards the contribution. Yeah, I'm down with that. That's a great analogy. That is
Yay.
a great analogy. What other things can we say about this receptive? Go figure, as Mother Earth would have it, it is the yinnest of all gates. This is the art of pure receptivity. When we look at the hexagram, if we were to look at the hexagram of this, it would be all yin lines. So there's a straight opening right up through the whole hexagram, only receptive. It allows in. Its job is to allow in. And its only real fuss is that, if anything, it's more impatient than even the 14. The 14 would like to get the work done already and have it be something worth doing. It's quick to want that. Gate 2 is quick to be demanding that it, in fact, be that, you know. So when you have the whole channel, you tend to get your work done. You know, when you have just a gate 2, it's like, where's the juice? Why isn't the work getting done? I see a direction. People with gate 2 have a direction. They're like, they're moving along in their life, and they can tell right away that it's not working or that it is. And when it's not working, everything else in this gate 2 is just so important because it's the home of the monopole. It's gate 2 is this thing that guarantees we humans get hooked into a line of a trajectory of movement in our life. And to parse down that word movement is not my legs are moving and I'm walking from point A to point B or driving or something. Movement is, it was this decade and the next decade, this is my life now. My movement in my life was, 2 years ago, I was XYZ doing this here, having that happen and whatever. And 2 years later, usually you hear a lot of people say, well, yeah, I fixed it all. I handled that thing. I did the stuff. Gate 2 drives that, did the thing, handling, and the rest of our body graph is in support of that at those times. So
yeah, that's interesting. I have gate 2, but I do not have gate 14, and I feel it's like I know the direction of beauty and I want to make everything pretty, but I don't necessarily have like that 14 sacral oomph to make it happen on my own.
Well, direction and beauty and movement in a direction is this sort of elusive concept potentially, again, until you look back over your life. And then you start to realize all of it was towards more beauty and start picking different words towards that, more aesthetic pleasingness, more comfort, right? More ease, more stability. These are all things that are more beautiful, right? Stability might talk to the tribe, comfort will talk to the individual, whatever, however you want to parse these things out. Some of them talk to everything. And more of that, and or way acceptable amounts. I won't say gate 2 is a glutton, but like a horse with licorice, if it could, and it was only more and more pretty each time, I'm guessing it would keep eating, you know?
The direction of something better.
Yes. Yes, it's going to keep doing, it's hungry for it. And gate 1 becomes its creative expression that everyone goes, oh, wow. And when gate 8's there to finally contribute it, it's like more, oh, wow, because it is now pounded into manifestation and it has shared itself essentially with through its army and its listener. It's really good stuff.
Super cool. Next up, we have gate 46, which is pushing upward and the gate of the determination of the self. Gate 46 is part of collective abstract circuitry and it links up with sacral gate 29.
Yeah, gate 46 is all these a lot of gates sometimes people will say can be elusive in their names. That's why you get your design read. That's why you drive yourself in for a reading. That's why you start this process to alleviate all of that. Pushing upward is both something you could almost look at religiously, like pushing upward into the kingdom of heaven, because that's what this is doing. It's again, we're now away from the Sphinx, which was gate 2, and we're back into the vessel of love here as an incarnation cross. And this is the love of the body. And before your mind gets hung up on what you're supposed to think about that, it has nothing to do with your body is extra pretty or not, or whatever, right? Or you're old, or you got spare tires, this or sagging that. It's not about that. It's about every moment that you're alive. If the rest of your vessel is working as it relates to you love yourself, the love of all things, your experience in your body, in the moment, in the now, is where you have a great amount of love. And that love is supposed to be shared. This is a very experiential channel. When you get to this whole channel, you get to that perseverance down at down at gate 29, and this becomes the channel of discovery. Think about what happens when a kid discovers something. This is very childlike, by the way. It just wants to frolic. It would be happy to never have to wear clothes, although no one can imagine that now because we've been conditioned so much. It's the love of its own body doing things and being with itself. And that's to be shared as a discovery, just like a child that shares their discovery. As soon as they notice it, it's the best thing ever. I remember discoveries when I was little. I thought I was the only one, and I thought it was the greatest thing ever. Later I come to find out, Dan, it was a matchstick. It lit on fire. Yeah, I get it. And it becomes that thing that can only happen in the now. So I know we save that mostly for the individual definition. That individual definition is also shared basically with this channel. This channel must be right now. So the discovery is no expectation of what you're going to find as yourself in your body, in the now, in the experience. It's to recognize whoever it is you're sharing that with and when it gets shared and that it's being shared and that you're in it is something you stay in without expectation. Only later, after the discovery has been made, do you then find yourself reflecting back on that. And that's what happens in gate 13 right above it. Pushing upward, the determination of the self, the heading below the name is the good. I love this. I have this gate, by the way. Good fortune that may be perceived as the result of serendipity, but it's not serendipity. It is derived from effort and dedication. So basically, you're always on the move. You're always doing things. You're always sharing what the stuff is you want to do if you have this gate 46. If you can't share, you're not exactly happy about that. Sooner or later, you got to share things. And then as that happens, you've done a lot of things. And so suddenly it seems like serendipity. It's like, oh my God. So people 846 can very easily be called lucky. It's like something happens, like, oh God, that was lucky. Yeah, I've had it, dumb luck over and over again. I love it. However, at the same time, every time I look back, I'm always aware that this was the result of a lot of things that had come before. And then you start to realize it's all the result of things that have come from before. And the thing is, the things that come from before happen in an experience that you discover. Get rid of the anticipation, get rid of the expectation, and you will have good, clean discovery, and you will have good, clean serendipity. And yes, it is very much the gate of being in the right place at the right time until you're not yourself. And then it can easily keep being the person that unfortunately got drawn to, the wrong place at the wrong time for them, fully. So this gate 46 plays an important role. The aloofness of the name, this pushing upward, the determination of the self is literally everything I just explained. The love of yourself in the body, the love of that body that is now doing something, and especially when it's being shared, and then it gets reflected on afterwards. And this is a good day. This is a day at the beach. You found a lot of stuff, and you got a lot of shells, and you're tired out, and everything was good. And now you talk all about it on the car ride home. You don't truly interrupt your discovery while you're sitting there on the beach, although you do let other people come and share in on it while it's happening.
Here we have our 3 gates, our 15, our 2, and our 46. So these are all the identity center gates that are receiving sacral energy from below. These are our tantric gates. And so, Danny, what do you have to tell us about these?
The Tantra is this sacral driving force, because once upon a time, the Tantra used to be the very same channels down one. So between the sacral and the root, meaning you just go down. They're not the same channels, obviously. They just go down one, and you'll see that was the 7 center Tantra, and it was very base, and it could be very debaucherous. It was just adrenalized sacral sexual energy. Now the actual sexual energy of the sacral that is there to make more um, is given new marching orders, because it is now guided through the vessel of love. This totally cool thing that guarantees an expression of the 4 different expressions of the vessel, nestled around and nestled within it is the gate 2, the driver, that then pushes that direction. The vessel is just like this giant pool, and as it fills up, the driver floats to the top and hops on board the ship and starts driving it away. So that tantra now is not quite the same thing as it was before, and it's there to drive our direction through the love of humanity and the love of ourselves in our bodies within it. And these are the things that help share the beauty, and that's part of the story. Also, the sacral's tantric energy, even though 3410 doesn't count as part of the tantra, the sacral now, you can see clearly, has 4 of its 9 gates dedicated to identity movement. That's a lot. 4/5. It's really 4/10 because 34 acts 2 different ways, 3 different ways technically. So it's 4/11, however you want to add that up, but that's a lot. That's a lot. So that's no longer the format channels, just adrenalized energy for that. It's now almost a type of awareness energy, because we know when the beauty isn't there. We know when we don't feel good in our body. And we know when we haven't accepted the right modesty of the other and the right extremes of the other. And we know when we're swimming in the wrong pond, essentially.
Well, and
None of
it's
that
like,
is very, sensual first, although these are very sensual channels because they touch and they love and they move.
yeah, and they're aiming somewhere. Like
Yep.
the roots to sacral format energies, it's like electrical powerhouse, adrenaline, go, sacral response. It's just like buzzy
Yep.
intensity. And then continuing onward with this 15, 2, and 46 and 10 kind of on the side, since the sacral is going there as well. Those 4 sacral gates that are pumping up the identity center. It's like they have somewhere to go. They have a direction. They're looking at something. They're focusing on something. And whatever you focus on, whatever you aim at, that's where you're going, and that's where you're going to end up. So you have to be really careful with what you're aiming at in life.
Basically, yeah, it can very much put blinders on, and then your mind gets involved. It relieves you of your truth-giving strategy and authority, and then that's when we suddenly all have the wrong direction. We know it when we see it. That's a guy's on the wrong direction. He's on the wrong path, and they know it too, is the thing. So yeah, that's that's the tantra of this moment. I find a couple funny things. So everyone can see the channel of rhythm. That makes sense with Tantra. The channel of discovery. That makes sense with Tantra. But the channel of the beat is just in a hurry.
And that's the 214.
Yep. So, so it's sort of a tantric joke because the Tantra is you take your time and you do the stuff. And unless you got this channel, then it's like, okay, I'm pretending to take my time. Are we done yet? Are we there yet?
Are we there yet? That's a good one. It's not necessarily done, but are we there yet?
Are we
That has a
there
different
yet?
vibe to it. Are we
Well,
there yet?
totally.
Because are we
Oh,
done yet is like, okay, it's done. Close the curtains. We're over it. Are we there yet is like, have we gotten to the thing that we really want to do? And we're so excited to like
right.
go there.
The right receptivity of this Tantra is not to necessarily be done with the experience, but it's to do what gate 46 is waiting to do with gate 13 above, is to now reflect upon the experience. And as a shared thing, empowering each other, right? Individual and collective, shared and empowering. So the after part is supposed to be as good. In other words, that's what our Tantra is saying. So I know I take a very happy buzz with me, and I can take it with me for hours or days sometimes. That's where we're supposed to be, and that's part of what is beauty, because we're not fighting with each other at that point. We're not, you know what I mean? There's no,
Mhm.
the dissonance goes away, and the harmony and the beauty shows up, and that's what we're looking for inside of witnessing the movement of these channels and these three gates.
Super cool. On over to gate 10, which is the treading and the gate of the behavior of the self, which is part of individual centering and integration circuitry. And gate 10 links up with gate 34 in the sacral, gate 57 in the spleen, and gate 20 in the throat. So it's a busy one.
It's wicked busy. Um, I like starting with this heading. So gate 10, treading the behavior of the self. This is part of the vessel of love as well. And the heading underneath the name, the underlying code of behavior, which ensures successful interaction despite the circumstances. This in our body graph that helps empower and push a direction. Don't forget all the gates we've talked about so far are empowered by the sacral, the prime motor. So that means they're permanently energized, or energizable, and they're waiting for that. So this treading on the tail of a tiger, beware. That's a way to, it's an old statement. It just means in the old days when they would catch a tiger or a lion in certain villages, they would taunt it. And the men that were felt brave enough, and I imagine some women, would step on the tail of that tiger. And they had to be very careful of their behavior in that moment, obviously, for obvious reasons, like a snake charmer. Um, this is your behavior in all circumstances. And the reason they called it treading is because your behavior is never something you get to really fully dial out of, at least not for long. When you're sleeping, sometimes when you're just truly in the pocket of life or whatever. But even then, your behavior matters, and you're always quick to move your behavior. And the reason it's part of the vessel of love is because your adaptation of your behavior is what keeps you alive. Right? I mean, what was the example Ra would always give? It's if you take a boombox into the jungle, something's going to hear you and eat you. It's not appropriate behavior. It's not appropriate behavior to go, whatever. Lots of things are inappropriate behavior. You don't go to the funeral and keep blowing your nose or something. You step away, whatever it is. So we're always adapting our behavior moment to moment, conversations, the next moment you feel a certain something, you adapt your behavior, adapt your stance. And because of this nine-centered form we're in, that guarantees our pushing towards love and beauty, and towards a direction that has this communion, marrying up love and beauty with the other. Because we're always doing that, it's our behavior that becomes the thing that the other sees on the outside. It's our behavior that smiles rather than frowns, and it's our behavior. Every facial expression is part of that behavior. How many muscles in the face? We're very expressive. And so that's this gate 10 in a nutshell. We have a genetic proclivity to successfully behave right. So the running joke, and if we ever open up the Comedy Store version of human design, is people without gate 10 don't necessarily know how to behave.
They're just pressured to behave by the rest of us who do have gate 10.
Right. And they become open and receptive to what behavior is actually correct. So it's not they don't know how to behave, it's they wait to see, and that's potentially so. But we're always careful not to step on the toes of people, because there are no bad gates, there's no bad openness, there's no bad definition, there's no such thing. It's all perfect. But if you do have a gate 10, sometimes you don't know how to behave.
I can relate to that. And that it's such an important energy within our design, and as it links up with 3 other gates. That's
It becomes our behavior becomes the source of our survival. One of 4 giant sources that come together to create our behavior, and this becomes our creative sense of survival first, and our awakened and explorative sense of survival.
going to talk about gate 25, which is Innocence and the gate of the spirit of the South. Gate 25 is part of individual centering circuitry, and it hooks up with will gate 51.
The uncontrived nature of the child in gate 25. So successful behavior, and right across from it, we have innocence. This is the spirit of the self. This is the love of all things. And the heading below the line is the perfected action, the perfection of action. We just got done with behavior, right? So the perfection of action through uncontrived and spontaneous nature. Just like gate 46 is supposed to be uncontrived and spontaneously in the experience that it started, gate 25 becomes the love of all things universally, universal love of all things. And it's need to be uncontrolled. As soon as gate 25 is trying to contrive something, that's the mind getting involved. When it is its innocent self, because that's one of the names of this gate, innocence. If you have gate 25, there is an innocence, because you're innocent. That's the thing. You're innocent. Even when you made a mistake, you're still innocent. Even if you're not self-mind, thought it was trying to do it on purpose and get away with something, I suppose then you're sort of not really innocent, but the innocence within you is still there. God gave us that. That's there. This propensity of gate 25 as part of the vessel of love says, I empower that everything is potentially innocent. I empower that innocence carries with it great power. I empower that innocence even accepts shock, because that's what's on the other side. And just like, don't all the stories and biblical stories and all the religions have some kind of meek inheriting the earth and something like that?
I don't know if all the religions, but Christianity has the Beatitudes.
There's always a child that's sort of I
don't know what all the religions. I could speak. Christianity has the respect of children and don't hurt children.
Well, the child that comes forth to be this guiding thing in its innocence. That folklore and that tale is for gate 25. On a practical sense, if you have gate 25, you're supposed to love your pet rock. You're supposed to love your guitar, and you're supposed to love your girlfriend, and you're supposed to not be asked to choose between those 3 things, because anyone is subject to losing out in that choice. It's universal love of all things, and it's the only gate of the inanimate. So every rock has a monopole that holds a gate 25, and that's it. And it sits there universally as the love of all things. The rock can't talk and tell you that, but if you break that rock with a jackhammer, now you got 2 rocks doing the exact same thing. So what it says is this innocence is infinity, because I can keep breaking that rock for infinity, technically. If I break that grain of sand at the end of breaking the whole rock, I still got 2 grains. I still got 2 innocent things. So that's a big deal. And that's why it also becomes part of our mystical way. This gate 25, accepting the initiation of the warrior in this channel of initiation 2551 takes that all spark of life that, by the way, when these gates are present and ready, and as the fetus literally ignites into life, we know other gates are there. We know the channel of rhythm is there by definition, but the all spark that allows the spark is here in this initiation. And boom, you got life. And that's when people would measure that tiny atomic bomb inside the womb that just suddenly is now alive. That's what it looks like. It takes that energy and empowers the behavior. And when the behavior is able to sit still, uncontrived, right? Innocent in the now we have awakening. Awakening is a mechanic. And this whole movement from gate 19, part of the mystical circuitry, I won't go through all of it now. 19 goes up through the 3740, goes to the 5125, and then to 10 and 20. That is the mystical circuitry in our body graph. It aligns us to that there is more than just us. And it gives us that as a great contemplation, as the warrior, as the innocence in the now, simply reflective, able to have any behavior at any time. And it doesn't matter because you're simply contemplative now. And now you're awake. No one can tell you you're not what you think you are, what you are at that time. So we get to awakening from that gate 10, and it's empowered very much by this cross movement across this sphinx. I mean, across this G center. Lots of movement in the G center, by the way. There's a huge vortex in here. By the way, there's a whole class on just this and the vortex that moves it and the way it sits as the centerpiece for the penta. Throat's not the centerpiece. If everyone wants the throat action, sacral's not that. This is. I have a feeling I stepped away from cool mechanics, though, and I got a little esoteric there for a minute. I hope.
Definitely, but it was really pretty. You got some nice comments saying they like listening to you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you. I love that.
Yeah.
Gate 25, it's just one of my favorite things. I have it, you have it, and I am innocent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a fun one. It's definitely that innocence and I don't know, almost unassuming-ness. And then the relationship with inanimate objects is really fun. And there's even like getting in, I feel like I get invitations from inanimate objects in strange ways.
You do. You do. We know we're all connected. All things are one. Einstein proved that long ago with his spooky action at a distance. You know, he measured it, never could explain it. And that's what this is. And I just find it's just so cool that the individual definition of this part of the arm of the cross, so to speak, not of the cross, of the G center and the movement, is 10 and 25. I mean, 10 is one of our roll gates. It's our primary roll gate. 10 is empowered by the rest of the gates of the vessel and the direction and the G center generally, and especially 25. I could say especially 15 because it's in the wheel's opposition, but 25 very much has this motion straight across that says, I empower you with the priest and the priestess and the warrior spirit and the capacity to leap and the capacity to land and the capacity to do all that stuff in the now. So good thing you got all that sacral juice coming from below, because you don't need to know. You'll have the right response. Your behavior will simply respond. And that same thing, pick different words a little bit, will hold true for all the types that aren't, a generator.
So here we have gates 10 and 25, which are basically these side arms of the identity center. So 10 being that behavior that links up with the sacral, spleen, and throat, and innocence of gate 25 that links up with the will.
Yeah, so the roles of the behavior, the investigator, the hermit, the martyr, right? The opportunist, these are all role gates in gate 10. So these primary roles, we name our profiles after them, right? I mean, these are the primary roles, our behavior, the heretic and the role model. So those are the main roles. Every single one of them is empowered through this centering circuit that it's part of. There's other circuitry it's part of. It's part of individual circuitry. It's integration and not collective. But it gets empowered to survive through its innocence. So all of these things happen naturally. The investigator will naturally isolate as needed and then come out with its investigation. The second line will naturally of the gate 10 take its marching orders of innocence and power and empowerment and shock and initiation, and it will simply sidestep the behavioral requirements of others. And each time, successfully. That's this thing is our capacity to do these things successfully. I'll bump into things and it may seem like a pain in the ass, but I did so successfully. I'm the opportunist. I've got a fourth line, and it's I'm success, and I'm a 2/4, so I'm successfully sidestepping what you think you want me to be, because I'm in a little shell until the opportunity shows up, and then I'm successfully trying to say something about that and share and get in tune with all of that and be part of that. Doesn't mean I'll be part of it, but I successfully was there in the start. So I wrap these two things up to say they very much become part of the expression of our movement that was empowered through the sacral tantric energy that guarantees steady, persevering life force. I'm real happy with all of that. I got nothing else to say at this moment.
It was great. It was super, super great. I'm glad we have it recorded. Now we're going to continue in our journey around the identity center. And so our next three gates are going to be the three gates that then go up to the throat for expression and manifestation into the world. So starting off with gate 7, which is the army and the gate of the role of the self in interaction. Gate 7 is part of collective logical circuitry, and it links up with throat gate 31.
So this gate 7 is cool because it does require interactivity. So these top gates, starting with gate 10 that we already did, we have to keep reminding and mentioning these are part of the expressions of role, our roles on this planet and amongst the others. So this is a collective gate, and it says the point of convergence by design. So this is people converging, or ideas and notions and things converging in the people. The point of convergence by design, the need for leadership to guide and order society. So this isn't the army of General Patton that drafted your butt and put a rifle in your hand, although this person could be in that capacity. But the capacity of this particular army inside our movement, all right, is our capacity to recognize that we have to interrelate and do something for like a common good. And once we agree, because this is a collective gate, collective logical understanding, everyone involved has to have a level of understanding. And suddenly, in that moment, as that starts to happen, a direction starts to take shape. And it's always looking at the future. And that very aspect, just having been empowered by the vessel in the nine-centered body, in the nine-centered life and consciousness, awakening as ourselves, that movement not only gets us towards more beauty, because no one's going to agree to build it towards something that's crappy. Let's build it worse. It's just not something you hear people say. The army emerges, and suddenly someone looking at from afar might say, hey, that's a real tight unit, but no one's necessarily in charge of that unit per se, because it's filled with unique individuals. It's just they've agreed and they're empowering each other. And yes, gate 7 becomes part of the channel of the alpha, because it gates to gate 31 on top in the throat, and that's influence. So the army that starts to emerge, because the thing that made sense is going to push a direction now towards the future, what ends up, successfully and logically and repeatably, according to patterns, according to that which it had joy for, according to what it's identified with, right? What am I doing? I'm keynoting all of the circuitry, this collective understanding. According to all of that, it becomes influential. So the gate 7 very much may take the lead. The gate 7 very much may assign the lead. The gate 7 may be the one that finally seconded, said, I second that notion, or bring up the notion that someone else or themselves should be sort of take a type of leadership. So again, even that the channel of the alpha makes can make for some confusion, because it's not the wolf alpha that simply will bite the other ones harder, and everyone knows, no, that's the alpha, don't mess. This is the elected alpha, and it's very democratic in that way. And that's why In the first line, you've got the authoritarian, but in the second line, you've got behavior that is not the authoritarian, it's the Democrat, the second line. And so this, as a foundational binary, says the days of the strict authoritarian are no good anymore. It doesn't work that way. And then, we've got the anarchist in line 3. And then what do we got in line 4? The abdicator, right? And so as we go up through the lines, these roles that we play, they play off of each other. They must be shared. The army can be a literal thing, but you, with this gate or with this whole channel, cannot presume that you get to be in charge. You have to be part of a process that unfolds naturally. And then the army shows up, and it's quite an army. When everyone agrees this is the thing, and there is someone sort of taking the lead, that group of individuals gets things done. And by the way, as soon as there's 5 or more together, all the gates are defined, the channels are defined, all the life force of humanity is available generally, almost all of it. So you're just a rolling mass of unstoppable life force if you allow it. And that's the army. So the army is this really big concept to describe the movement of everyone saying, oh yeah, I like that too. You got enough people saying, good idea, you've got an army. Just not a forced, conscripted, drafted army, a willing army. And that army at that time, you got a collection of people, you got a group. You don't have to call it the army,
It's your guys. It's the guys who are, you got your guys who are going to go get into some whatever, who are going to handle that situation with you, whether it is a physical fighting thing, or we need to get something done, or we have to build a deck or take care of the kids or whatever it might be. You got your guys at your side to go do the thing. I had
an idea, and life is going to get so much better. Dude, I love that. Now we're all on board and everyone is happy, driving towards the life is gonna get better. So notice, this is the expression of gate 2's driving and gate 2's holding of the wheel towards the future. The Sphinx looks like a trident. Gate 2 on the bottom fans out into 7, 1, and 13. We've just described the future looking one. You got the Trinity, the ghosts of Christmas, past, future, and present, basically are here.
Yeah,
but they're not ghosts, they're alive and well.
It's neat with gate 7 because that is democratically elected leadership. It's the direction of democratically elected leadership. Like that's where you have that kind of energy of just like, this is going to be a person who can lead. And then it meets up with 31, which would then be like the outward facing, the expression of that leadership.
Absolutely. And it's a great big deal. I mean, it's important because at the end of the day, this very much can take on absolute leadership. There's no question. It can even have, that's its job now. So it's not that it can't be the leader. It might even have the authority to like just do that, take on that job. Okay. But it still starts out and is in its essence a shared communal process to take the Tantra, to take our behavior, to take our love of everything else, and to drive it towards that which will make it safe to be all of that. That's the beauty part and the communion part. So that's gate 7 in a nutshell.
Next up, we have gate 1, which is the creative and the gate of self-expression. Gate 1 is part of individual knowing circuitry, and it links up with throat gate 8.
Gate 1 is this creative expression that's independent of will. It's independent of your thinking. And in fact, the more you think, the less you'll have it. That's just a fact of gate 1. It's not up to you. Creation as a primal force, the energy potential to manifest inspiration without limitation. And these are our roles of our unique individual. These are our roles as a creative role model, essentially. And that creative role model becomes the thing that everybody else needs to basically suddenly see because it shows up out of nowhere. And it can sustain and it can totally support the army. It can totally take the lead itself because it is a role model. And it guarantees that the person that has a gate 1 will want to wear a bow tie where everyone else wears a straight black tie. It guarantees that my individual expression is like paramount. It's really important to me, and it gives us our roles in creative expression. I'm going to read a couple of these roles because they're just so cool, Moni. So you got the creative, which is this independent of will and the self-expression as a creative self that cannot be determined in advance. It's independent of your determination. You've got this love is light, this energy to just exalt the beauty of the now. You've got this energy to sustain, which is the keynote for the third line, the sustainment, right? You've got all these various roles that we have. Aloofness of line 4. You know, you think 4 is always talking at everyone. Its creative expression is aloofness and aloneness. Go figure. So we add up these roles that come out of these gates and we get our creative direction, and this is the direction in the now. So if this is the driver, the 7 is looking forwards out the windshield, and the first line is busy staring into nothingness, involved in its own little trip. Ra would say busy with its navel, you know, or something of that nature. Busy not in the future nor in the past, but right
Just
now.
right now.
Yep.
Yeah, it's that individual direction of creative expression in the now.
Literally. And that creative expression becomes the life force of the channel of inspiration. And that channel of inspiration, it marries up gate 8, which is a contribution, and this guarantees that manifested into the world, coming all the way up from the sacral where we started, gate 14, and all that power and all that direction, and suddenly it gets contributed, because that's what gate 18 demands. It demands contribution into the world for the sake of empowering everyone else towards the highest good. By the way, the highest good is also a creative self-expression. So some people might have a pretty awful self-expression of that. You'll know, you'll see it. Most people don't. Most people, the proper self-expression is towards the true highest good, the thing that everyone knows when they see it. And that's gate 1's job. The yangest of all gates, living in a pulse that can't be determined until it arrives. That's the definition of that pulse, as you can find right here, and I would say in gate 3 as well.
It's like that pure electric force outward to be one's self in the world.
Which is stunning, and it is shocking, and it is quite a direct thing, because whatever your unique self is, it's only you at that moment, until you can impact and influence and basically share with and recount and empower the other. I mean, that's gate 1 isn't happy in a vacuum. Oh, what was that question? Don't you take that question away.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt you. We got a question.
Did you see me? That was funny. That was sacral response.
Yeah. You got so excited from Jonathan. I'm not sure to pronounce it.
We'll go with Jonathan.
Cool. He says, I have a design Pluto in gate 1.5, but my Saturn is in 60.6, is looking at it with a side eye.
60.6 could care less what your 1.5 has going on, because 60.6 is stuck. All gate 60 stuff is just transcending the limitations. So maybe it's side-eyeing it as it relates to transcending whatever limitations are there. But if you're a 5th line, then the role of that is about attractiveness. So if you have gate 1 in a 5th line, especially if it's in a defined center or part of an incarnation cross, if it is your Sphinx or part of your nodes, especially, you'll find that it is demanding that you always look good when you walk out the house. Attractiveness becomes your creative role of self-expression. One of the ways in which you self-express your creativity is through a certain amount of attractiveness. And it doesn't mean, you know, you're always decked out and wearing only the best stuff. It just tends to mean that, hey, I don't have gate 1, line 5. If I look like a slob, I don't care most of the time. You know what I mean? In fact, I look at that, it's like, maybe that's my creative for self-expression right now, but less so for the gate 1, line 5, because they have a role out in society to also attract that attention, right? It's a 5th line. It's there to make a difference and become that general. That is the 5th line of gate 7. So hopefully that answers your question.
Next up, we have gate 13, which is the fellowship of man and the gate of the listener. Gate 13 is part of collective abstract circuitry, and it links up with throat gate 33. So nice. We have gate 13, the listener.
Yep. So this listener, I'm going to read the heading below the line. This one is, again, a little bit elusive. I mean, we understand listening, right? That's easy, but universal ideas and values, notice ideas and values in an ordered framework. Well, who's ordered? But in an ordered framework which inspires humanistic cooperation. Okay, yeah, whatever, maybe. Except when you pull it all apart, this towards a humanistic cooperation, gate 13, that was listening, its job ultimately in the gate of I remember, that voice that's in 33 right above it in the throat. When you put I remember and this gate that's also aloof half the time, you put it with gate 13 that has busy hearing everyone else's secrets and people come to a lot. What you end up getting is someone who's able to retell the story and retell it in such a way that has a certain amount of stimulatingness to it, right? That's part of the circuitry that has its discovery that has happened. So that means it's now embedded in the body. The body knows. It's not just the mind came up with something, the body knows. And that voice that then comes out of the individual inspires the humanistic cooperation ultimately, because the story they tell is the thing that everyone else says, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, that's part of the thing. This channel of the prodigal, which this is part of, is our direction that looks from the past, right? So 7 is in the car example of the driver. The 7 stares out the windshield. The 1 is busy with its navel or whatever, and 13 is looking in the rearview mirror. Where were we? What's back there? Is something coming upon us that we'll need our army for? What is this? And after it answers, what is this? Because collective human experience gets deposited in the Sphinx Gate 13. That's its deposit spot. 46 is the end of that basic thing. Even 35 in the throat will come all the way down and up through the experiential format and deposit all that stuff in this genetic codon that's job energetically inside the liver, giving us an identity, a sense of love and direction that says, everyone, if their love and direction doesn't feel right, wants someone else to tell them a story and talk to them. That's what's in here. They don't want the army. The army is the dude that tries to fix it, right? I need you to listen. And then after you listen, maybe something will come out that was worth saying, but only after the experience, only after the expectation that wasn't supposed to matter, only after the stimulating moment and the idea and the ideals. This is very much the meaning of movement towards communion, because what it remembers, it then has to share with the other. And it can't share with people, won't share well with folks it doesn't love. It won't share well with folks it's not in a tribe with in some way, shape, or form, even if it's a temporary one. It's going to share as the prodigal that came back to tell the rest of the story that the village needed to hear. So now take that example and put it into your regular life where it's to people that might need to hear, to yourself that needs to hear. Gate 13 talks to yourself as much as it can talk to the others as about what happened. Ultimately, it says, I remember. And when it says, I remember, it basically locks everyone in place for a moment to hear, what is it you remember? And as soon as it makes sense, that rear view looking that it does, looking backwards, drives a direction forward. And you put these 213 and the 7 together, and that's what you get from the rear view mirror through to the forward out the windshield. And again, as I always love to point out, all of that is in service of gate 1 so that the unique creative self can come out. So that's gate 13. Everyone's telling you secrets. Everyone's always telling you stuff. If you got a gate 13, you're always hearing it. And it's always abstract at first. You never know. And it might lead to an experience. Can't tell. Until it's out of that rearview mirror and moving forward in your creative self. Now you can tell. And soon you'll have something you get to share. And so 13 acts like a glue, cohesively keeping us all in the know of what once was. In the Penta, this becomes the accountant and the record keeper. Yeah, and the person that keeps all the pictures in the scrapbook.
The one who's like storing the memories.
Yes. Gate 1 might say, I got this cool picture, and whip them a Polaroid. But if they can't come back later and say, hey, do you remember I threw you a Polaroid? Can I look at that? Gate 13's the one that glued it to the dang scrapbook. If we're up to gate 1, it would have been on his dresser and then on the floor, and now it's scratched, and maybe he picks it up later. I'm describing myself, by the way.
Yeah, gate 13 is very much that listener and the secret keeper, and sometimes the secret, I guess the secret teller would then be 33.
Yes.
The storyteller, the secret teller, but the 13
Yeah.
is like the memory box, the hope chest that's keeping all the stories, all the secrets, listening to all of it.
Yeah. Gate 56 on top of the throat is simply in a metamorphic process, synthesizing ideas into something stimulating. It's not yet weighty. It's not yet the collective story. I'm sorry, but you give everyone amnesia for a few minutes and they want gate 13. What happened? What's the collective story? What's the scoop? We need that. I mean, we write books, dude, all the time. Books is a collective 13 business, most of them, except for training manuals, and other things like that. Scientific manuals, or even them, are both. So all of our stuff is wrapped up in this 713. What was it before? Where are we moving to? What was it before? Where are we moving to? I hope it was good before. It better be good where we're going.
Yeah, that collective direction from knowing the past.
Right.
It's like you need to know your collective past direction in order to be able to move forward in a way.
Or you've lost out. And by the way, without it, the entire society becomes unmoored, unanchored. Just like that example. Do you remember the phrase, Moni? 3 sheets to the wind.
Oh yeah, 3 sheets then. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was thinking of like, remember who you are. Like,
God,
remember
that
who
comes
you
from here.
and like, yeah, remember who you are, where you came from. It's like having that orientation of direction on this collective level based on the understanding of the stories and the secrets of the past.
Well summed up. I
Thanks.
don't want to add anything to that. That was
Thanks.
perfect. Yep.
Perfect. You ready to
That was
mosey?
textbook language, what you just read, what you just said there. Yep.
I'm doing it. I'm learning.
That came out naturally?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't looking at you. I was lost in the euphoria of what you were saying.
Oh,
Yep.
thanks. No, that came out very naturally. I feel like I'm falling more and more into keynotes and linking to get them together in some new ways.
Perfect. Well, you told the story, Moni. We needed the people to hear that.
Well, thank you, Danny. So here we're going to do a little recap on our identity center gates that are then aiming up towards the throat. So we have gate 7, which is aiming towards the future. We have gate 1, which is now, and gate 13, which is aiming from the past.
Just remember, these gates determine the expression that becomes made manifest in the throat center above. So these are all determinant gates, and that's why they're roll gates. They determine what we're about to do, essentially, all the way around. They take their marching order from gate 2. This becomes, again, our determination of how is it we're going to move to what. What else about these top 3 gates? They go together. They become the past, present, and the future, just quite literally. And they're embedded genetic constructs in us that guarantee humanity is always some form of common movement from past through present to future towards something that is better. This guarantees that this is that movement. Doesn't matter if it's in your nodes or not. Doesn't matter if you have these gates or the center. None of that matters. It's in humanity. It's in the world. You have them. They're transiting you all the time. This is becomes the foundation of the expression of that movement. It becomes the impetus for it. And they are our roll gates. These are our primary roll gates when you add in gate 10.
So here we have this very, very busy page where we're going to kind of recap the identity center overall. So we have the identity center, the G center, which is the center for love and direction. So on the left side, I have our vessel of love gates under the heart. And then on the right side, I have the Sphinx gates with the compass. And then up top, you have the graphic of the identity center where the black gates are the Sphinx, the white gates are the vessel of love.
First of all, I love these pictures that you've chosen. I mean, they're as good as you can get. Let's deal with an open G center for a moment. Something you and I don't know, Moni, because we both have defined G centers. If you have an open G center, you concern yourself with the lack of love and direction, or the fear that it won't last, or the concerning that do you feel like there is a missing love, their direction doesn't feel right, the movement in your life doesn't feel good. Your identity is what all of that is about. It's the knowing in your chart, if you have it open, that you have an open identity center. And that's important to know. If you have an open identity center, you're not here to have this fixed identity that has any kind of certainty about its love and direction. You're here to witness that when you feel good, when your strategy and authority says this is for me or this isn't for me, that you simply follow that, because the army comes out in that moment and it communes with the others and people get on board. The listener comes out at that moment to say, yeah, good choice, kid, because it remembers from the past. The creative comes out with its creative self. And we all know what that's about. You know, that's the best when our creative self can come out. Our behavior starts to go ahead and do and support all of that. So if you have an open G center, just recognize you're not sad about love and direction. You're not self-mind is. And it's torturing you and treating the chemistry of your body and your body like a slave. And so this is a lot of heartbreak can happen here because people don't know that, and then they start searching, and then the right identity center comes along who isn't necessarily right for them, and they latch on, you know, and
Because
they
at least
can't,
they're going somewhere.
right, or the sense that they weren't going somewhere in the first place and now they are. I got news for you. You were going somewhere the whole time, and you just had to see that. You just didn't realize it up front. And the other doesn't determine your goings. They can only share that with you or not. They're just not quite the determiner of it. Obviously, I guess, unless you let them, which is, again, what the not self of this would do. Define G center and just love and direction in general, because it's our identity, and because all of these gates come together to make only two crosses, and because these two crosses actually outline the wheel itself, the mandala, the human design, you know, our trip around the sun each year and everything else. It's why it's at the center of the body graph. It's the only, in the original color format, it's the only one that was there another one that was yellow? Maybe, no, the head center was green too. I think it's the only one that was colored in yellow.
Originally.
Yep, originally, and I always go by that first. It's why this center almost looks like a compass compared to the others that are squares and triangles. And it's our home of that which we know darn well is on the right track or not. Now, how can we know that if we don't have all this action that is tantric love, self-love, love of all things, pushing the driver that is this monopole sitting right below our sternum and is identified with, obviously, the liver itself. And it says we need more communion. We're nine-centered beings. We need to cooperate, commune, and find directions that are always better and feel good. And we want it to feel great. And that's what's all tied up in here. Another cool thing, if you have an open G center, place means everything to you. Place, because the second it's not in the right place, both direction and love aren't there, and you know it. And that's the thing. So start to experiment with your open G center the second you don't feel like you're in the right place. It'll just be a sudden momentary thing. You can ignore it, probably not going to kill you, but later, please, gate 13, reflect that moment and be like, I did ignore it, and I noticed I didn't have the best time I could have, or whatever. There's certain things that left me a little bit anxious. You know, other times you'll be like, I'm not ignoring this. I'm not in the right place. Because if you'll notice it right away, because the second you can tell that you just don't feel like you're in the right place, you also start to tend to not be with the right people. And, you know, if open G center child, let them choose their room if you can, if that's feasible. Let them choose the room. I had an open G center child, and I saw what room she chose. She had mountains as her environment, and she chose the attic. The whole dang thing, man. She had the Playboy spread up there.
And how sweet.
Yep. Little, you know, that was her choice.
And open identities, they also like to move their furniture around a lot and
She moved
having
it
things in the right
constantly.
places. Yeah.
Yep. So everything's the right place at the right time. That serendipity of gate 46 is alive and well in this identity center. Humanity has an identity, and this identity center says love pushes the direction, not something else. So,
Yeah, it's interesting if we look up here at our graphic in the top right of our yellow diamond identity center. I differentiated between the Vessel of Love gates and the Sphinx gates. So the Vessel of Love gates are in white, and then the Sphinx gates are in brown. And it's interesting because I've really been thinking about the nature of love, because love just sounds like, oh, I love it. I love it. Oh my God, I love you. Like it can be so casual in a way.
mhm,
It's become so colloquial. We've almost lost its meaning, right? But if you really
mhm.
think about love, love is like a force. Love is like the mother who's lifting a car off of her toddler child. Love
Yep.
is this huge force. And it's almost like this glue that is pushing us together, holding us together. And so I like it with our identity center graphic because these 4 white gates, it's like it's almost squeezing the identity center. It's like in these 4 stable positions, just anchoring the identity center in love.
Totally.
So then the Sphinx can move, right? Can receive that sacral energy from below, and then trident up top, out the throat. And then on the mandala view, it alternates around the 360 wheel in 8 pie slices, and it goes Sphinx, love, Sphinx, love, Sphinx, love. And we alternate between
Love
direction
and
pushing
direction.
outward. Yeah, love and direction. So the love is like holding us together, and then the direction is like pushing us outward. And the love is holding us together, and the direction is pushing us outward. So it's interesting that love anchors around the identity center, around the G center with those 4 white gates. And then in the wheel, it's almost like a heartbeat, right? It's like almost like a breath
Yep.
or a heartbeat, in and out
Yep.
and in and out. And
Yep.
I don't
It's
know, it's
very
endlessly
important.
beautiful.
Well, it's a very important rhythm as you go around the wheel. It really is. And you're right. When you look at it that way, it looks like a total building anchor for a skyscraper to go on top,
Like it's
and
structured, it's holding it.
totally. And, the fact that we know this is a genetic um, mechanic inside of us that is guaranteed. So it's inside of everyone. Everyone's got this genetic construct, whether you've got the active gates or not, doesn't matter. So we all know it when we see it. And that's one of the things that gives us this capacity to all be able to see what's working right and what isn't. And it very much comes through here. And anyone who tries to doubt the genetic structure of all this, please, do try and tell me that you haven't witnessed from the beginning of time till now that the love of things hasn't been the primary driver of almost everything. Start with the love of family, you know what I mean? And the courageous efforts humanity has taken the whole time, all couple 100,000 years of it to care for its young. I mean, that's the love of child, and the love of beauty and the love of all of it, and the love of self. These are things that we've spent more caloric energy just to prove it's a force. A force requires that it moves things, right? There's movement here. We move lots of things. The love of things moves lots of things. The hate of things moves things too, which is the opposite. So we got to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Feel good about the identity center?
I feel real good about the identity center.
So we've just gotten through all of that, all these 8 gates, these important gates of the identity and the G center. And so now I figure we could just kind of talk about it. You already went into it a little bit with undefined and defined identity centers, but we've tended to do our final wrap up with some advice for those people. So with the, defined identity, it's, making sure you're following your strategy and authority, and then you have that force that's going to guide you. I feel like it's a little simpler. It's like, cool, I'm going this way. My bus is going this way. This is where I'm going. Do you
Well,
have any more advice for
yeah,
the
because
defined identity?
the defined identity isn't always aware that it's a defined identity. Why would it be? We
Mm-hmm.
say it all the time. Why would a fish know it's a fish? It's always been a
Mm-hmm.
fish. That's all there is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're the ones with self-reflective consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
This identity pours into that self-reflective consciousness and basically informs it, hey, you're on track or not.
Mm-hmm.
So all that self-reflection we do, as soon as you think you're not on track and there's a problem, you're thinking about too many things and all the open centers are nagging at you and you're under pressure and blah, 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 right? afraid of this, whatever. Now you can know that we aren't that, that we aren't what I just said, that we aren't moving in that thing, and that the love isn't pushing a direction. So when you're a defined identity center, you just sort of already accept that. You can handle a place that has a little bit of a cesspool, just like you can handle a place that doesn't for a little bit. You will move towards beauty, don't get me wrong. It's when you're open that you become acutely aware that there's a slight nervousness around some of this, and the mystical circuitry does go right through the heart of this thing, and that does connect to the emotional solar plex center. So we sense that this is an emotional issue, not just a mental issue. And it's not quite a survival issue, it doesn't feel like, even though, of course, it's all of those things. We mostly feel it as an emotional energy. And so when you find yourself lamenting, I can't find the right love and direction, just recognize you're not here to find it. You hook onto a line of geometry, and it gets found in cooperative sharing with the others sooner or later. You have to allow that. It's an allowing process, just like the channel of discovery demands you allow. If you expect, you'll miss what will soon be allowed. So expectation kills all the good stuff you're going to get. And that's what was allowed. Oh man, I didn't know I was going to get extra cookies. Yeah, you didn't allow me the minute to tell you. You jumped ahead. Now you don't get extra cookies. Whatever. It was already going to be allowed, is the thing. And it's for you to trust that. So if you're in the wrong place, allow yourself to leave. If you're in the right place, allow yourself to find love and direction there. And after a while of watching that, pretty soon you get to tell other people what is love and direction. Because the defined G center, doesn't necessarily know so well yet. It would have to contemplate, but the open G center will be acutely aware of these things. In fact, it will be part of its tapestry and what it gets to talk about and how it gets to inform the rest of us and talk about the past, the present, and the future, and empower all of that. So with its behavior in the now, innocently. I'm done. I can't keep going because it's a Gatling gun. It keeps going around and around.
This looping in the identity and love and direction.
If I start keynoting the tones or the basses or something, as we're going around, it's like, Dan, we've spun out too far, man.
Yeah, just bring it back, bring it back, bring it back.
Yeah, bring it back.
Yeah, with the undefined identity, like if you feel weird somewhere, it's okay to leave. If you feel weird walking into a restaurant, you're better off leaving and finding a new restaurant, because otherwise, you'll end up seeing it. If you don't, you'll see that you're with the wrong people, or maybe somebody gets sick, or a bar fight breaks out, or whatever it might be. So being aware of that spidey sense, like an open identity has like a spidey sense of like, what's the vibe on the place, and is this a good
And
place
is it
to
right
be?
for you is the thing. So the open G center will be wicked sensitive to environment. Yet my defined G center can totally ignore environment for a little while and generate itself through that, most likely, So things like that. It's aware, it's sensitive to all of this stuff. Allow that. I love sensitivity. I have sensitivity to pressure. I have sensitivity to the ego, lots of it. I have sensitivity to the emotional solar plex center like there's no tomorrow. I get to know about all those things. So I don't care if I'm a channel rhythm stick in the mud sometimes with all my rituals and habits, and you get to have that same zeal in your voice and certainty and awareness in your being. So allow it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that open identity is here to taste and sample the different ways that people are living and loving and moving in the world, and see what you like, and then you get to choose what to do with it. Like us defined identities, like we are on our path, and like that's where we're going. Whereas like the open identity is really interesting because you get to like, have the buffet version of life and see what it's like in the States, see what it's like in Europe, see what it's like in Thailand, see all the different ways that people can live and love and move into the world, and then take what you like, enjoy it.
It's funny you use the word sample, because I guess I would tie it all up with something that's really cool and a little mystery nugget for people who are geeking out on the human design stuff. Hopefully it's everyone. Listen to me. Hopefully it's everyone. The open G center is the reflective nature of us, not the defined. The open G center is the definition of the reflector themselves. Now, I realize the reflector is all the open centers, so that's why it sounds a little bit weird. But it is the identity that then is able for it to look back and understand its place, its milieu. So it gets its primary strategy of a question, shall I say, it's got its primary question comes from this G center. In fact, all of our primary genetic questions originate in the G center. Who are you? Where am I? Who am I? Hey, what's my impact? All of that speaks towards love and direction and empowerment of therein.
Following that, Jonathan has said that he has outer authority and his open G center is helpful for soundboarding. Since we like touched upon that a little bit with the open identity, is like, yeah, like
I knew you were a projector, Jonathan. I don't know why.
it's like, yeah, it's like you have that sounding board ability to see like where are you and where feels good. I've heard this from like other like mental projectors and stuff like that, of like they have like their favorite cafe or their favorite little bookstore, and they'll stop at these different places to get into a vibe of a certain location and environment as their like sounding board and finding their decision making authority. And I thought that was really cool.
No, absolutely. I can totally see that. I love outer authority peeps because I get to I have several friends this way. And as soon as they're willing to start talking about the thing, I realize there's a huge sounding board that also works for me. I have almost never met a mental projector that did not have that outer authority be of such service to me and my dumb generator self that doesn't know what the heck to do. Because I'm not supposed to know what to do is the thing. And that's a hell of a surrender if you think about it. Hey, generator, you're not supposed to know what to do. It's like, I have to know what to do tomorrow. My boss is expecting, my husband is expecting, No, yes, they may be expecting all that stuff, but you'll know as a response. And then the folks with definition in their head, the projectors that are mental authority, outer authority, they give me so much every time I get to talk through stuff with them.
That's cool.
Because they become the reverse sounding board with all their experience.
That's interesting. So it's like they need a sounding board for themselves, but then they're also become like a sounding board for other people to bounce off of.
Dude, it's that theme keeps retaking place, doesn't it? I have the open G center, therefore I become the sounding board of the place. I have, just like what you just said, they all do that. I have the open sacral, so I become a pro on all things manifested and generated, So.
That's cool. Human design is so cool. I love it.
I'm feeling pretty complete.
I feel really good too. I think we've covered it. I think we've gone through our 8 gates and we waxed poetically. Oh, my raw line. I gotta share my raw line.
Oh yeah, about the liver. Yep, please.
Yeah, I love this line. So Ra talked about how the identity center, the G center, is associated with the liver in the body energetically, right? And so you have love and direction. And so that's why if someone is drunk, then they're impairing their liver, which is why a drunk cannot make love and they cannot find their way home.
Is that true? I have seen it.
Is it like when you think about it, you're like, oh my God, like it's so absolutely spot on. Ross said that and it like stuck with me forever. Of if you're intoxicating your liver, then you're impairing your identity center, your G center, your love and direction. So a drunk can't make love and they can't find their way home.
That makes good sense. They can drive better than they can walk, though. But
oh my God, don't encourage that.
That's not quite a direction, though. Yeah.
No.
Although it might be a really bad direction.
No, it's a bad direction, but there is a certain sense where it's like they fall into a lull and they can just kind of drive unsafely, but it's a mindless trajectory. Right. It's a not, there's not
rather
like
than walking and stumbling over everything, trying to keep balance, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because that's not going to work. But yeah, I wanted to say my raw line, so I'm glad I remembered that.
Yep. No, I'm wicked glad. I forgot all about it. I'm glad you brought it back up. So that makes sense. But just, guys, it's esoteric and it's real and it's literal. Just love and direction. Keep putting those things in your mind and recognize that your love has to move in a direction you like, or your whole life will be unfulfilled. So allow that through the fact that you are in a human existence and there's a G center in your body. It guarantees it. So I guess I would say relax about it. Start allowing. This G center begs to be allowed. It'll quiet the mind if you allow as well, and get the mind into the experiment. So much goes on here. So much goes on here. Yeah.
Yeah, and like take care of your body, take care of your liver. Like, I mean, maybe it's like my gate 46 is just speaking really loudly here, but it's like we've been given these beautiful vessels, these vehicles. We've been given this by God, by source, by the universe, whatever you want to call it. This is a gift to use these vehicles for something good, for the greater good, for the glory of God, for the beauty of all, like however you want to say it, for however that works for you. And it's important to take care of our bodies, to take care of our vessels, to take care of our livers, because your liver is like processing through and filtering all the blood, which is then all through your body and how you're going to move in the world. And it is going to shape that love and direction that you're going to experience and how you're going to move through the world. So be grateful for your vessel. I know it can be hard sometimes. I know we have all sorts of insecurities and we can think really bad self about our stuff, about our bodies, about whatever we got going on. But it's like, you only got one. You might as well learn to love it and take care of it. And it'll take you even more cool places than you've already been.
Wickedly, you made me think of something as you were talking about all that. The G center is this wicked, sophisticated place inside the body graph. I mean, it's wicked sophisticated. And part of its sophistication is its newness to us. Yes, the G center has been basically part of the seven-centered body all those, 100 and something thousand years. But as we moved into our nine-centered form, the G center was reshaped in an image that is now totally sophisticated. It's part of like a computer heart pulse motherboard. It's a motherboard. The G center is a motherboard. That's a computer analogy, and it came new to us as we moved into this nine-centered form, and it shed the ego. I mean, it went through more transformation maybe than most of the other centers, and it brought us the projector. The projector was basically new on the scene as of 1781. Were there projector tendencies in people without definition, like a reflector, or were there other things that would be different? It's hard to say because we don't have the same body graph. We're 9 and they're 7.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it did bring the projector into the plane, into this world, and as evidenced by your aura. Where does it penetrate? Right to the G center.
Mm.
So those driving direction in this world are very much our projectors, and they're constantly working on this particular center first, unbeknownst to them, most of them obviously, but it's there. That's the energetic of what's happening. So there's just so much mystical truth in this center. It's just and practical stuff, and I can't say enough about it.
Yeah, it's like the 1781 software upgrade where
Yep.
projectors got like popped onto the scene, and then what is the heart chakra split off and upgraded into isolating as the identity center and like the ego will center. And
Get that fire out of our identity. That was the old way. It caused a lot of death and mayhem. If you think about it, fire in the identity is I love only my direction. Hell with you. God knew what he was doing with that one.
yeah, he tends to.
Time for their upgrade.
Yeah, well, we're due for another one, so.
Yeah, we're due for 2027 is coming, folks. It is coming.
So play with your experiment, practice that strategy and authority so you can move through the world correctly.
Please.
It's just it just can ease a lot of heartache. And I know conditioning can be weird and rough, and there's a lot of like funky stuff you got to get through, but just keep going with it. Keep going with it and practice that strategy and authority, experiment, play around, witness the movie, have some fun with it and play. And like, don't take it all too seriously. Have fun, enjoy it. Like, we're here as a gift and a learning experience. And
indeed, drive yourself in for some analysis. Drive yourself in. Bring your friends. The more, the merrier.
So thank you, Danny. Thank you to everyone who is watching and hanging out and commenting and liking. That would really help us if you can hit that like button and subscribing. And we will see you next week for another exciting episode.
Bye, everyone. So much love, and thank you very much.